Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, Herbstreit has stepped into it.
Again.
And this is on Dog Nation. It says Kirk Herbstreit allegedly encouraged Dylan Raiola to flip to Nebraska. There you see Kirk talking to Dylan, but that's not what they're upset about. I'll actually show it to you. It says Dylan, of course, was a longtime Georgia commit. He was a big-time five-star, and he had originally been committed to Nebraska over a year ago before, but the day before the actual signing day, he flipped to Nebraska. So Georgia had him committed for months and months, and they didn't have an opportunity to go out and find another five-star because it was 24 hours before the signing day, which is early signing day is now national signing day, basically. 95% of the commits are signing on that day. Well, anyway, it turns out that Kirk actually had a conversation with Dylan's dad. And I'm going to actually let Dylan's dad explain it to you because he did that on X on Rivals.
One guy's name, his name's Kirk Herbstreit. And when he saw the smoke about Dylan entertaining Nebraska, he was like, called me. He said, dude, is this true? He got to do it. You know, he got to do it. His affinity for Nebraska, for a guy like that to tell me and to, you know, get behind me. Look, I knew he needed to do it. But I wasn't going to sit here and say, you need to go change that place or be a part of the change at that place. So when Kirk told me that, you know, I was like, man, you know, I've had people reach out, other coaches reach out to me and say, look, the place is special. Coach Rule's a special leader.
Now here you'll see Kirby Smart talking a little bit about Kirk Herbstreit.
It's back to January 1st, 93 in the Citrus Bowl, the only time Georgia's played Ohio State. What do you remember from that game?
It was a good win for the Dogs, you know, so we had a not game, but I guess a luncheon, and Herbstreit got up and threw a pass across the room. I knew we had a shot to win. So make sure he knows I said that.
Now, I'm not exactly sure when that was. I don't think it was a direct response to Kirk, but anyway, I thought that was funny. Now, Kirk has come out, and obviously he's a little bit distraught over this because Kirk, like I said, he cares what people think of him. And he doesn't like this narrative out there that the father has put out that, hey, you know, he called up and basically tried to talk him out of sticking with Georgia and going to Nebraska, and obviously the father was all excited about it. Now, Kirk called into the Paul Feinbaum show and obviously tamped this down as much as he can, and you'll really hear that in his voice. I'll let you listen to that. And this is pretty much all over Twitter.
My question to you or anybody is if somebody, and I know Dom, we're not great friends, but I know him pretty well. When somebody calls and says, what do you think of Matt Rule? And you like Matt Rule, are you supposed to say Matt Rule is a bad guy? Matt Rule is an idiot? Matt Rule is a bad coach? Or do you say, I like Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule is a good coach. And then the other part of it that he said was that I think the family legacy, I think he mentioned he had a brother that was an assistant coach at Nebraska, and of course, Dom was a great player there himself, All-American. And I think it sounded like the family, out of respect for their love for Nebraska, that they were really torn, is what he made it sound like. And I just thought I could, you know, being a guy that went to Ohio State and a lot of it had to do with my dad, I just said, wow, that, you know, the fact that your son can go to any school, any powerhouse that's competing for national titles, and because of his respect for his own dad, he's thinking about maybe going to Nebraska, a place that hasn't competed for national titles in over 20 years. That says a lot about who the kid is as far as what he wants to do. It's not just about trying to go to the NFL. You know, he's thinking a little bit more about it because of maybe the way he grew up in that house and the way they love Nebraska. So I just said, wow, that's a powerful thing if he ended up doing that. But I of course, did not sell Nebraska and try to tell anybody not to go to Georgia.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's the most ridiculous thing that anybody would do. But I did compliment Matt Rule. If I'm guilty of anything, I said that Matt Rule is a good coach, and he's a good man. And I believe he will bring Nebraska back the way he did Temple and Baylor.
Wow, talking about two different stories, man. It sounds very different hearing it from the father and then hear it from Herbstreit, who is really like, oh, I just kind of talked to him a little bit, and I might have said a little compliment or two. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that's very interesting. And now let's get into Kirk Herbstreit because he's still fighting with the FSU folks. So he's got the Georgia folks to deal with. He's also got to fight FSU. He's getting it on two fronts. And this was a story back in December. It says Kirk Herbstreit goes on tirade against despicable lunatic fringe FSU fans. And what he brought up when FSU got in ahead of Miami back in the day in 2000. He said, you were big fans of the turnout back then, of course, most of you, in this despicable lunatic fringe. Probably didn't even know about 2000 when the Noles got the benefit over a great Miami team. Then he went on to try to defend himself. And this, of course, had to do with the FSU quarterback getting hurt and all of that. And one of the big reasons they didn't get in the playoff, it should have been a 12-team playoff, and I've told you folks this, but because of the alliance, which was 3 stupid commissioners, decided to stick with the 4 teams instead of going to the 12 teams, which should have happened in 2023. That's what Greg Sankey wanted of the SEC, but because they're so adamantly opposed to the SEC, they decided to form an alliance, 3 commissioners, to not allow it to move to 12 teams, and it totally creaked the ACC big time. And their commissioner, of course, was all for keeping it 4 teams because he didn't feel like it should go to 12 teams just yet. And there's nothing better than making decisions based on feelings because it's always correct. But he's still fighting with the FSU people 3 months later. And here's another story. He's still fighting over the College Football Playoff Committee. And this is where he fought people on Twitter. And one guy asked him, said, what are your thoughts of Steve Young as the backup when he went in for Montana? And then Kirk Herbstreit gave him a bunch of laughing emojis. And then he replied to another guy, said, yet you follow me. Have a great day, friend. Keep spreading that positive energy. World needs more of it. Here's another one where somebody told him it didn't give a crap. He said, yet another stellar FSU fan who follows me but doesn't care what I have to say. Here's another one where a guy put a clown nose on him. Says, isn't this tiring? You guys are the best. Go Noles. Here's another one where a guy says, hope you don't think they are tired. I guess he was talking about people getting tired of giving him grief. He says, wait till Ireland. He said, it's going to pick up heavy. He said, man, I hope so. I can't wait. So Kirk is just sitting here going back and forth with these folks on Twitter. Why? Why are you doing that? I don't get it, man. He is really combative. I just don't get it. Why are you really that thin-skinned over this stuff? Geez, you got to let it go at some point. If you continue to fight with them, that's fuel, man. You're just giving them fuel. Geez, you figured he'd learn that by now. And FSU's dealing with a lot of crap anyway. They're angry down there. They're dealing with the ACC where they're not getting any money. And the SEC, I'll show you their payout. The SEC got $741 million and broke it out between the 14 teams. It was over $50 million a team.
There you go. Thank you, sir. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Which is really outstanding to get over $50 million bucks, and Vanderbilt's over there loving it. God, you think they're happy? And FSU's down there in the ACC, and they got this amount.
$1.09.
Yeah, they're not happy. $1.09 is, I think, what they got. So not a good day for them, and having to fight with this knucklehead. So anyway, FSU needs to get out of the ACC. And, of course, they're doing everything they can. They're fighting hard. And I actually hope they do get out because that's a terrible deal that the ACC cut with Espen. And they're stuck in it for like 16 years. While the SEC and the Big Ten are going to cut new contracts well before that time. And they're going to get even more money because now you've got Texas and Oklahoma coming in, which are just huge teams to add to your conference. And FSU's, look, they want to go in the SEC or the Big Ten. I would think they'd be a nice fit in the SEC, and hopefully they're able to do that. But it's going to be tough for a while as they battle the ACC because if they do get out and the judge allows it, there's going to be a jailbreak because you're going to have Clemson, you're going to have North Carolina, Virginia, and Miami all exit. And I think that's why they added a couple of teams recently because they're just trying to sustain and survive at this point. And it's not going to be easy because the money's just not there. But anyway, I did want to cover this. And Tennessee's enjoying their $51 million bucks. That's my team. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know. Continue to cover all these big news stories. Of course, Kirk Herbstreit, man, he's just constantly stirring up crap. I can't believe he got involved in this recruiting thing. Realize he's a guy that got involved with the Micah Parsons thing. Ohio State was trying to get that great linebacker, and Ohio State had to pull completely out of it because he got involved with that recruiting. And see, realize him being an alum at Ohio State, you're not allowed to do that. Whereas with this guy, it wasn't as big a deal. So this is a guy that should know better than to mess around and get involved in recruiting. It's not a good idea, especially given his position. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. That lets me know to continue to cover all these big stories, of course, my Vols, the SEC, all that stuff. If you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Hit this little button, costs you nothing, and it helps me out. And right over here is the most recent video, YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.